Before I start the video, I just want to say that I'm not dissing the artists or anything. I'm just dissing the characters within the story. So this is no hate to the artist. I loved like the art, but I just did not like the characters. They were just not it. Like, I did like them at the start, but there was just some parts in the story in which I was just a bit like, this is not main character behavior, is it? And this is just strictly my opinion. I just didn't like the webcomic as much as I thought I would. And if there's any webcomic that you guys seem to like just hate, that other people just seem to really like, please do comment down below. Or if you have read this webcomic and you comment down below what your thoughts are, I would love to read through all of them. Recently, I was bored out of my mind and scrolling on Webtoon to read a romance webcomic, and I came across a completed comic called To My First Love. So that piqued my interest because I thought it would be something like the K-drama Lovely Runner, you know, like maybe it was about two people that just never ended up being together. So I got curious and started reading it. I enjoyed the first few chapters, you know, it was like the cliche romance, boy meets girl, they don't get along. And so I finished the webcomic in a day. And let me tell you, I've never seen a more messier webcomic in my life. So the story starts off with Jisoo, who has just lost her grandmother, who is her only living relative. So now Jisoo, all alone in this world, is upset at her grandma's funeral, but according to everyone else, she does not seem to be showing much emotion because she isn't crying as much as the other people. But Jisoo, deep inside, is really upset about her grandma's passing. However, she is offered a helping hand by one of her grandmother's students, this older lady, I forgot her name. She's offered to stay at her place by her because she feels bad for Jisoo because she has like no one to look after her. And Jisoo is kind of taken aback by this, but she agrees to it. This is where she meets the main male lead, Hajin, who first like mistakes her for a stalker, and they kind of like don't get along at the start. By the way, we don't hear anything about the stalker ever again in this manhwa after this. But Hajin is someone who's reserved and cold, and he is really mean to Jisoo when he first meets her. And as they start living in his house for like a while, he slowly starts to open up to her. And here's where Jisoo, who moves to Hajin's school, meets another guy who's on his taekwondo team. I'm just going to call him the second lead. So basically, the second lead guy, he's known as like this womanizer by everyone. And he just seems to like date around a lot, but like break up with girls. And so he's just known as like this playboy within like the school. They end up speaking and he seems to fall for Jisoo because Jisoo does not seem to fall for like his charm like all the other girls. So as the story goes on, the second lead finally confesses to Jisoo that he likes her. And Jisoo's like, okay, fine, that's okay with me. And therefore they start dating. I know, it just happens all so quickly. And so now Hajin hears about this and he knows what type of guy the second lead is. Honestly, in this entire story, I feel bad for the second lead. He was actually the only good person in this. I'll get into it. But Hajin feels really jealous about this because he's slowly starting to catch feelings for Jisoo. And because they live in the same place as well, he sees Jisoo way more than her boyfriend does. And when her boyfriend finds out they live in the same place, he kind of feels a bit betrayed that Jisoo never said this. But Jisoo's like, it's fine. I'll never see Hajin like that, so you don't have to worry. So before I like carry on with the story, let me tell you a bit about like how Hajin's like family works. So he has his mother, who's the lady that invited Jisoo to like live with them. Then he has his father. He hates his dad because his dad was one of the reasons why his uncle, who was one of like his favorite people on the planet, committed suicide because his dad had meddled in his uncle's love life along with like his dad, so basically Hajin's grandfather, to separate his uncle and his then girlfriend who was pregnant with his baby. And when they got separated, the girlfriend ended up dying in a car accident, and the uncle, upset about this, committed suicide. And Hajin was the one who walked in on his uncle's body. So therefore from that day onwards, he just always hated his dad. So whenever like his dad's around, like Hajin just like completely ignores him, or he only talks like Jisoo or like his mother. But as the longer that Jisoo spends in the house and with Hajin, she slowly starts to like warm his heart, and she tells him to like, you know, make amends with his dad. Because honestly, I don't know, that man absolutely does nothing good in this entire story. But like she tells him like, just, you know, it's time to like make up with your dad. Like you have a whole life ahead of you. How long are you going to be angry like this? So Hajin like listens to Jisoo and he mends his relationship with his father. So now everything's okay. Jisoo's in a relationship. Hajin and his father's relationship is mended. You know, everything's going well. Harjin is just not happy because Jisoo is just not his, because she has a boyfriend. Yes, I know some of you could already see where this is going, and it's exactly going there. But one day during like PE, Jisoo's like trying to run, but she has like such a weak heart. She's always had like a weak body, so she can't really do much physical exercise or like any vigorous exercise like the other students. But she doesn't like speak up to the teacher because like the PE teacher is like a bit weird, like in like a noncy way. So she kind of like, you know, just like carries on running, but then she ends up fainting, and Harjin's the one that takes her to the nurse's room where like she's just like laying down. And here is where her like all her friends tell her it was Harjin that took her to like the nurse's office, and he even like started having like a shouting match with the teacher because he had caused Jisoo to like overwork herself like this, and Harjin ended up getting beaten up by the teacher because he stood up to him. All of a sudden Jisoo's remembering all the good things Harjin's done for her. Remember, she has a boyfriend, and she's remembering all the good things he's suddenly done for her, like helping her out, and like, you know, she realizes how close they become as like the months go on. And now Harjin comes into the nurse's office, and she's just like, why are you doing all of this for me? And they just become closer and closer together physically, and then they kiss. She has a boyfriend, by the way, and her boyfriend sees all of this as they're kissing in the nurse's office. So we fast forward a few months. Jisoo and her boyfriend breaks up because her boyfriend's like, oh yeah, I guess like you do seem to like him. But now Jisoo and Harjin ends up together. Like so many things happen in between, but like it's kind of irrelevant. But now they like end up together, and they have gone into college. And so everything's like good within their relationship. So they kind of like kept it like a secret until one day like Harjin's dad finds out like him and Jisoo are dating. And instead of getting mad, he's like actually happy for them. And so Harjin's father and mother welcomes Jisoo as Harjin's girlfriend with like open arms. And Harjin's kind of happy because it's like dad's like completely changed now. And Harjin is happy. He's pursuing his career as a doctor while like Jisoo's doing like her own stuff. And everything's going well until one day Jisoo faints. And when Harjin takes her to the hospital, it's found out that she has heart cancer. And when Harjin finds out about this, like Jisoo's condition, he's like so upset. So he spends days and hours researching about this condition, and he just loses his sleep. He starts getting terrible grades because of Jisoo's health. That is until Jisoo gets timetabled for a surgery in which she doesn't have much of a chance of surviving, but they're taking the risk anyways. But Harjin's kind of not happy about this because he's like really worried for Jisoo. And Harjin's dad is slowly realizing how much his son is slacking, especially in the education department, because of his girlfriend. So he calls in Jisoo into his office, and he tells her that she's going to take part in the surgery, but then she's going to die. Yes, this man is telling this girl to fake her own death so that his son does not have to suffer because of her. And Jisoo is like, but what if I tell your son this? And he's like, no, I know you want the best for him. And so the surgery happens in which they pretend that Jisoo actually died, and now Harjin's heart is completely broken. So we fast forward 7 years, and now Harjin's parents are like trying to get him into like going on blind dates, but he's still hungover like Jisoo, who's like died 7 years ago. But Jisoo's like living in like some other part of like town. She's like moved back into like the same town because like she asked the father for permission, and he like let her. She's just living her life. Still thinks of Harjin, but like there's nothing she could do because of his father and because she wants the best for him. But as fate would have it, she ends up seeing Harjin in the hospital because somehow she ends up working as like his cleaner part-time, but she realizes it's Harjin's house, so she kind of like gets away from that job very quickly. But during like one day when she's like going into the hospital or something, she sees Harjin, and he is so mad. But he's also happy at the same time, but he's more mad. And so he drags her to his place, and he's just there like, where have you been all these years? Why are you coming back? You weren't dead this entire time. And he just like drags her into the bed. But then like they make up. I'll get more into this like later on in the video, but like they make up, and so now everyone that thought Jisoo was dead for the past 7 years finds out about it. And so Jisoo confesses to Harjin about his dad's involvement in this entire thing, so he completely breaks any sort of ties with his dad. And now him and Jisoo are back together again. He's a bit like jittery about like the whole thing because he's scared he would lose her at any moment. But you know, it comes to a good ending in which they are finally together now, and Jisoo asks if he wants to marry her. And that's where the series ends. That was just a quick recap of 56 chapters. Yes. And you guys must have a lot of questions, but let me tell you, what I have said is nothing compared to how the story actually unfolds, because these people are actually weird. not even gonna lie to you, Harjin especially, I really liked his personality as like the nonchalant, like reserved guy who like slowly starts opening up, you know, the grumpy ex-sunshine. This man's personality takes a complete 180 during like the last few chapters. Like, I get it, your girlfriend pretended to die for like 7 years, but when I tell you this man turned into an absolute like creep when he found out about her existence all over again, let me clearly tell you why this man was just gave me the ick. So as I said, Jisoo basically cheated on the second lead with Harjin. So people will be like, oh, blaming Jisoo for the kiss, right? But no, I checked the comments. Absolutely no one was calling them out on this behavior. And as much as you guys would blame Jisoo for it, because obviously she didn't know she has a boyfriend, Harjin, I feel like, is so much more to blame. Because from the start, when he found out that she was dating the second lead, he went out of his way to ignore this girl. He went out of this way to be a complete, like, horrible person to her. And she was just kind of confused. And I started to think, why is it that we seem to, like, really give him, like, the benefit of the doubt? And I started to realize Webtoon especially is starting to show this trend in which, like, seem to have a lot more Webtoons with like toxic male leads now. Matthias, I'm looking at you. Anyone who has read Cry or better yet Beg, oh my god, what the hell is that Webtoon? But Harjin, especially in this one, I just feel like he was such a likable character at the start. Even Jisoo was. Like, Jisoo was like such a different type of female lead. Like, she was straight to the point. She communicated. And the moment Harjin and her start falling in love, or the moment she realizes she has feelings for Harjin, her personality just completely disappears. I guess like characters are meant to have flaws, but it's just a way in this webtoon that is kind of like swept under the rug and just shown to be like this kind of like grand romantic gesture, even though she is completely cheating on her actual boyfriend. But then he kind of like blames himself for it, which is a bit like, you literally did not do anything. Actually, you were the only good person in this entire thing. Then we could always put it to MCs being young, because this happened in high school. And once they finally do get into a relationship, we start to see like they kind of like complete each other and they seem to like work well together. That is until Jisoo pretends to die and comes back years later. Because the moment she comes back and he realizes she's been alive this entire time, I get he would be mad, but tell me why he's nearly trying to assault her. And by the end of the series, she just feels like a doll that he kind of controls. There was one moment in the manhwa in which she was trying to go outside. I think she was trying to go shopping or something. And he literally got so paranoid. He started like running after her to check if she was going to like run away from him. I'm sorry, I don't think that's normal behavior. Like literally by the end of the series, it just shows Jisoo like giving up on her dreams because she like quits like her job just to stay with him, and they like never resolve or solve this issue like in which like she went missing. They never really communicate about it. He just ends up just getting like really paranoid whenever she goes somewhere without him. And I feel like this could have been such a cool concept in which they could have like talked about it, you know, shown each other's like perspective on like what happened throughout the 7 years. And I felt like it would have been such a great thing if they never ended up together, because as much as they were compatible when they were younger, now when we see Harjin and the way he treats Jisoo, it's just horrible. He basically uses her as a sex toy. Jisoo just listens to him, apologizes, cries, and just goes on with her life, just being like this low-key like slave to him. And that's how the series ends. For all of you who are like, oh, it's just a manhwa, let me tell you what the problem with something like this really is. Because throughout this entire thing, everything Harjin does is romanticized. Even when he gets angry at her, it's basically romanticized, being like, oh, he's only doing that because he cares for her. But the real problem with this is that it portrays relationships such as this as an unrealistic resolution. Once Harjin and Jisoo finally resolved their problem, they kind of didn't address the underlying issue behind it, leading to readers believing that they could fix a toxic partner in real life, which often is not as easy as this. And honestly, when I saw Harjin during like the last few chapters in this manhwa, I was just a bit there like, is this the same guy that was in the start of this manhwa? Because he does not seem like it. He was just a horrible person. You know what the crazy thing is that some readers idolize characters such as this who are in toxic relationships. Because trust me, I have seen the comments and it's a bit like, if Harjin was not good looking, none of this would have been acceptable. And oh my goodness, it's just the way he acted like she kind of owed him everything. Like, I sympathize with him, but I can't understand what he's thinking, trying to force her back into this relationship again, because it's a bit like, are you okay in the head? Aside from his cold or like good looks, there's actually nothing to him. Like Jisoo, to an extent, she has a personality, but Hajin, except from being the nonchalant guy, when he shows personality like this, he's just an arsehole. That's it. As much as I hate throwing around this word, I feel like the once cute relationship just slowly turned toxic. And it's just so sad to see this, because this manhwa had so much potential. They could have been like a right person, wrong timing sort of thing. Or it could have been like one of like those healing manhwas in which like we're like, yeah, they seem good together, but it's kind of better that they're not. But in the end, it wasn't like that, because she still ended up with him. So it's just weird. I'm just so sad that she just lost her personality afterwards. Like, but as I said, the second lead is all I feel bad for in this entire series, because that man deserved better. Oh, that's the end of the video. I hope you guys really enjoyed it, and thank you for all the comments you left on the Usu video. I was laughing reading it all because it was just so funny. And if you guys haven't read this manhwa, I do read it because I kind of want to hear your opinions on it, because I read it and then I asked my sister straight away, am I tripping or is just a bit toxic? Because I was kind of really confused about this entire like events that was happening in this manhwa. It took me by surprise, honestly. Also, comment down like your least favorite manhwa character or webtoon character. I would love to read through that and it would just give me video ideas. Thank you all for watching. I love you all. Bye. Toodles.